Okay, so this is session 4 of ICTWEB411, which is finally going to talk about Java. So actually it should be session 5, shouldn't it? Because I threw in that lovely little bit about the project specifications in session 4. So we're now on session 5. Changed the title on the file, but forgot to actually do it in the title screen. So let's get back to it, shall we? So we're going to have a look at JavaScript and the use of the script tags. So these tags are exactly the same as any other tag within HTML. You just put your script code inside of these tags. The rest of it is HTML. So we'll have an introduction in how to use objects, the methods, and some of the syntax. And as this is the third language you're going over as part of the course, I have left it very light on the explanation in this slide pack because we're using basically known content. So whenever you want to call a JavaScript in, we have to embed it in the HTML code, and we tell the HTML to prepare to use a script by using the script tags. So we need to be precise with our syntax, even down to the case of our text. So the syntax for the script is, the first is the object. Now these are equivalent to the functions in Python, as we just went through that this morning. So relating to Python, that's the function, and then the method is defined as the second bit. So this is the precise service, if you like, that you're invoking. And to separate the two, we have a period or dot, and then we have the parameters that work with the method. So shouldn't be too shocking. So here we're just going to do the first bit of script, and first bit of script is we're just going to get something to print on the screen, and it's a simple hello world. So in the script, document write, which tells it to write something on the screen, and whatever is in the quotes is printed on the screen. Now we can have these anywhere within our tags in HTML, so we can use our style parameters that we use in normal HTML, such as headers, text, styles. All of this can be defined, and then that will influence what's displayed on the screen from the JavaScript. So the normal parameters that we use in the web page affect the outcomes of any scripts run on the page. So we can have multiple strings and variables mixed together, and we can just add them or append them if you like. together using the plus sign. So we can have a defined variable with a bit of string, concatenate them together with the plus sign to get the desired result. Pretty much like we did everywhere else. Now, the standard text format for calculations are used here. So it uses the standard x equals y plus 1, so normal equation format can be laid out. Or you can use the shorthand notations that we're seeing in the other languages where you combine the operators together. So x plus equals y means x equals x plus y. So they can be added together. Now, the example here is cascading from one line to the next. So it's using the y has been set to 5 and x is y plus 1. So x is 6. So we've now got a value for x. So you apply it all the way through. So how do we spit this out in a JavaScript format? So we use the document write script, but let's start from the top. So we're defining the language and type that's being used. So we're saying the language is JavaScript and the type is going to be text and JavaScript mixed together. Define our variables, then start performing the usual print mix of text and variables with the document write. So nothing too earth-shattering, this ease our way into JavaScript. Now, this is the start of the script tag. We've just put some parameters that apply to the script inside the opening script tag. You've seen this before with other tags, so it's the same use there. We then go through, put our equations in, so our normal calculations, and then what we want displayed on the screen as a result. We finish it off by closing the script tag, the body and HTML. So everything follows the standard HTML procedures for tags. They've got to be opened. They can have specific style information or relevant information to the tag added in the first tag. That's applied to everything following. We can use our lovely conditional statements that we're all familiar with, the if followed by the condition and then the statements to execute if that condition is true. And if it's not true, we go to the else statement and execute those elements. So syntax, a little different than what we're used to, but it's just a variation of what we've seen so far. So our condition is inside parenthesis following the if, and then the branch to be executed if that condition is true is inside a set of curly braces. Then the else statement, then the set inside the curly braces. Each element or statement inside the branch is closed with a semicolon. So hopefully you recognize these operators. The equal to, not equal to, less than, greater than and equal to. So there's nothing new there from the other languages. We're basically using the same operators. We've just got a slight change in content. Or syntax, not content, syntax. So in this one, as you can see, the original slide pack was created quite a while ago, but it's still relevant. What would I change Netscape to today? Probably Chrome. So check to see what the app is, the navigate, what your app's called. If it is equal to what's in the quotes, then do what's in the if statements. Else, execute the other statements. So here we have a mixture of string inside the quotes and a BR inside the greater than less than symbol. That will give you a result similar to this. Now, I say similar because I don't know anybody that runs Netscape anymore. But you can see here the examples running Internet Explorer. So the if was false, so it didn't run any of the statements in the if branch. So it's come down to the else and displayed you're not using Netscape Navigator, and then has done a carriage return or break, and then you're using Microsoft Internet Explorer. Are there other options out there? Yes, there are, but this is just a brief example of a conditional statement. Alert method. Now this is something we haven't covered in the others yet. This is the good old pop-up that gives you a message. So the alert is the method, and what you want displayed is the parameter for this method. So whatever you put in quotes will be displayed as the warning in the alert. Now, this one hasn't been called up in a while, but accessing the status line. Now, the status line is down the bottom of your browser, and we need to be precise in our scripting case language again and use it. Now, how do we access that little space? Well, window.status and then there. So again, using the precise grammar and syntax to get things to work. So again, within the JavaScript section, we're saying display something in the status bar on the bottom. We can change the prompt, and we can say we want an input. In this example, day equals Windows prompt, so we're prompting the user to enter a value, and what we display is the question that is the parameter used with the prompt. So it's basically just going to prompt for a input. So you would use that with like a variable or something like that. Switch statements. Shouldn't need to explain these too much, as we've done a switch exercise in C#. So just look at the slight variation of the syntax used. So here's our switch, our variables, and the curly brackets for the JavaScript, and each case. So we've got the instance, the conditional to meet, the statements that need to be executed if that switch case has been met, and remember our break and continue, and the default. So I think we safely say we're familiar with the switch statements. So in the example here, we've got case 1, document right. You've got classes from 11 AM to 5 and a break. Now, just like in C# when we use this, breaks out the switch statements as it's completed the branch. You only need to execute one branch, and then it returns to the rest of the code. If none of the above case statements have been met, the conditions haven't been matched as true, we have a default value to be executed that would match everything. So we can write functions within JavaScript and have them predefined and up in part of the head information. So anything that we want to call as a function later on in the body of the page, we have defined in the head section. So again, say hello is our function. The parameter that we're going to have is a name called variable called visitor name, and we're going to pop it up as an alert window with hello and welcome and the name. Then all what we need to do is call that function within another place within the page. So say hello is the function, so we just call it and give it the name and it will execute. So what's that look like inside the actual code? So we've got the function defined up in the header. So all what we've got to define in the body is the variable and call the function and assign the parameter for that function. So if you're going to use a function repeatedly in a page, then define it up at the top of the page in the header, and that way you just need to call the function in your body wherever you need to use it. So we'll just go through a couple of examples there. So in this one, we actually are calling for the prompt for you to enter your name into the variable and then executing the same function. So this one's asking you to input a name, and then I'll display the hello and welcome. Same thing, but we've called the script and we've just defined the name as a prompt. So you're defining name, again another variation, and I obviously got distracted and forgot to change my headers in this slide pack. So this one again, name1 is a function name. We have a variable called name, and we're going to prompt and we're going to return the name. So give it a try, see what results you're going to get. So the function name1 and function say hello are defined in the header within the script tags. So we define them all that we want to use later. And then all what we have to do is call them in the actual code that we want to use later. So the benefit to this, as I said earlier, is when you're using it multiple times within the body of the page, by having the functions defined up the top, you can just execute the function with the parameters later. This will save you some typing because it means you don't have to define the function throughout the page. You just do a execution. I know it's a little rough, and I left it that way because simple fact that all through our C# unit and our Python unit, these methods and concepts you've worked your way through, and all what you're doing in this one is going to be paying attention to the new syntax to execute JavaScript. So I haven't gone through and given full demonstrations and broken down all the command structures like I did in the C#, because it's the same concepts, slight variation due to it being in JavaScript rather than C# or Python. So we're just applying the same concepts using a slight variation of syntax because we're using a different language. So we just adopting what we've already known or know into a new language. So it's the same steps that we went through before, just using the correct syntax for the language we're using. the concept and how it's applied is basically the same. We just got to put it in the correct grammar for the language we're using. So, introduction of the script tags for HTML, where you define your functions, your execute of your scripts. We looked at the basic breakdown of an object. The objects have methods assigned to them, and the methods have parameters. So we went through a few of the basic commands that we've used in other languages, just to highlight the new syntax for how Java implements those same functions. So we went through the conditional if statements, the switch statements, and how you define a function in JavaScript. So what we'll do is go off and do some exercises around practicing those statements and creating JavaScripts to be used within the page itself. Alright, until next session, see ya.